I love it. That music just makes me really happy, you guys. I don't know why, but it's like elevator music. Makes me really happy. But no, you guys are listening to Author Talk with me, Amy, Russell, Valerie, and our lovely author guest today is Patrick MacPhee. So, you guys, okay, listen. Last week was a hot mess of a week. So I have to tell you, I have to tattle on myself. Okay. Russell is going to just get
Because if you didn't, I would.
I know. I know. So okay, so last week we had to run a rerun on the show, 100% due to me. So, with Josh taking a new job and working from home, we have decided because now we're no longer in limbo if we're going to move or do whatever. So now we're going to focus and like level our backyard because when we moved in, there was a lot of rocks and stuff like that. So we were aerating the backyard. So we rented the machine, we were doing it ourselves. Well, come to find out that my internet cable, they never came out and buried it. And so when the aerator went over it, which we weren't made aware of until my daughters wanted to watch a show, and all we do is stream. So we didn't have cable and the internet was not working, but the ones around us were. And so it ended up that the aerator had shredded pretty much that cable. And so they couldn't come out until Monday morning, you guys. They came out at 9:30, but I didn't have internet until 12:30. And they're already having to come back out. Okay, you guys. So anyways, it was a really, really fun time. And that was all me because me and Josh took turns with the aerator machine, and he would love to blame me and say it was me. But I will take credit. The one thing that was me, and Russell, you're going to give me crap for this, but I will own it, is I was using the aerator machine and our back fence is a wrought iron fence and I kind of hit the fence. So I had to bend one of the things back.
Oh
that
God.
I will take credit for.
You're
But
like
shredding the internet, I
Elaine.
won't.
You're like Elaine with the meat thinning device in the episode where Kramer had this meat cutter and Elaine borrowed it and destroyed it.
Yeah.
That you're Elaine.
It was fun. Okay. I bent the bar back. It took my whole body, but I bent the bar back. Okay. So it's this whole thing for one. But I do hope everybody had a great Easter. If you celebrate Easter, happy late Easter. I hope everybody had a great and safe holiday. But you guys also last week, I have found out this is an interesting story, and then I'll move on to everyone else because Russell gets all time happy on how long I take. But so you guys remember how I told you I had to take my daughter. She injured her knee on the trampoline, right?
Oh, that's right.
Well, she
The
still wasn't
trampoline
walking.
you shouldn't have.
Yeah. So she still wasn't walking. Okay. So I took her to orthopedics so they could examine, they ultrasound it, and they told me what happened. So what happened was she popped her kneecap out of socket and it popped back in. And Russell can't handle this, you guys. And it scraped her bone, whatever I don't know, the bone going down to your ankle. Okay. Anatomy wasn't my thing. So she ended up scraping that. So it's bruised, right? So we're like, okay. He's like, she should walk by the end of the week. This is how you know that Sky is my child and she is 100% me. Okay. So yes, that's all tragic. I got her knee brace. It was tragic. And I probably should be more empathetic. But recently, current events have turned my empathy or sympathy away from that. My daughter has been lying to me, you guys. I caught her ass walking just fine to turn the volume up on the TV. But then when it came to, oh, I can't get up, I can't do that. Mom, you have to carry me. I can't walk. She has been playing me and her dad for like, I want to say almost a week.
Wow.
Okay. So this, I'm a proud mom because she is 100% me. And I would totally do that if I didn't injury my knee and I want to be carried everywhere. But I'm also a pissed off mom because I'm like, man, I've been carrying you everywhere for 2.5 weeks. So, I probably don't sound as sympathetic as I should as a mom. I was at the beginning, but when you get yelled at 3 a.m. because you have to go, your child has to go to the bathroom and you got to carry them from the top bunk, you kind of get, emotion goes out of the window on that. But other than that, it's really fun times over here, you guys. It's hot as hell here. It's fun.
Amy, I can totally relate to that. sorry. Our son, he was in elementary school and he had done something to his knee and it was really, really bad. And he was like having, a panic attack and everything. We went and got him crutches. We had went like, I think to urgent care and all this stuff. One day later, and I mean, he goes to school one day with the crutches, full thing. Next day after, we go to all this trouble getting the crutches, everything out the window. He's fine. And you're
Yeah.
like, really?
Yeah. Well,
Really? It's a mom thing. It's a
yeah.
parent thing. I'm sorry. It's a parent thing.
There you go.
I'm telling you, because I had the feeling, because I was like, okay, I'm gonna go get a shower, and I kind of hid. There's like this cubby, small hallway in front of my bedroom. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna put the volume low on her show, and I'm gonna go get a shower. And she didn't want to get the remote, and I peeked over, and that's when I saw her walking just fine, no limp, no scooting, no nothing. I was like, this girl. So then I was all like, bet. So I waited for her dad to come home, and she wanted to go outside and sit with her sister while her sister played with the neighborhood kids. And then all of a sudden, she's down the street running, jogging, playing soccer when me and her dad come out. And I'm like, oh no. So Ghetto Amy came out, okay? But it was fun time.
I'm sure.
Kids will
I'm
keep
sure
you
there
on your
was
toes.
this. I'm sure there was this moment where you saw her and she saw you, and she went,
Yeah, and then she
Kinda
started
that-
limping on her toes.
"I've been made."
Exactly. So it's always fun time. So I hope you
Yeah.
all had a great weekend and less adventurous than mine. So what all did you guys do this Easter weekend and last weekend, since we had to run a rerun last weekend due to me? So what all have you guys been doing for 2 weeks?
Gosh, what have we been
Who,
doing?
who wants to go?
I want to
Uh,
hear about what Patrick's week was like.
Mhm.
This
Yeah.
I'm dying to hear.
absolutely, I'd love to share. So the 4th, I flew out to LA for the Writers of the Future workshop, and
Wow.
I had not flown in 20 years, and I was terrified of flying. But I knew entering this contest, they have this thing in LA. I'm going to have to fly, so I just, told myself, okay, it's a sophisticated machine. It's all right. I had this big revelation. Humans create floors in the weirdest of places, even 30,000 feet in the air. So I had this big, moment of zen with humanity. But I managed to do that. Plane was okay. Landed. The Writers of the Future people showed me around LA, and it was just day after day with all these famous sci-fi fantasy writers. Tim Powers, who wrote so much stuff, Jody Lynn Nye, and then like absolute legends. Larry Niven was there. I'm in a room with Larry Niven, who wrote Ringworld, multiple Hugos and Nebula. And I'm here. I wrote a story, and I'm an aspiring author. I love writing, but I'm like that. And to be in the same room with these legends was incredible. Orson Scott Card was there, so many others. It felt like a month. It was just day after day of so many new and novel experiences. Everything from they called it Holly Weird, where you go down Hollywood Boulevard, and I'm used to my hometown going on a little trail. And I don't know if you guys do this, but if you're on a trail outside, you nod to everyone you meet, right? You say, "Hey, how are you?" kind of thing. You can't do that in Hollywood, because if you nod to someone, they'll, "Oh, do you want a show? You want me to put on a performance for you?" And you're going to pay for that show, right? And you get this weird tunnel vision going through the big city, which is very opposite. But so many great experiences. The weather was way better from Canada. I'll say that. While I was down there, we had, I think the Thursday before, we had freezing rain. And while I was there, I would check my weather app, and it would be, snowing occasionally. Meanwhile, I'm here in LA, it's sunny, and it's a dry heat as well. So if you don't like the heat, you can just go a few steps into the shade, and it's actually cool, which if you're used to a lot of humidity, that doesn't tend to happen. The heat just overwhelms you, and you move to the shade, and it's like, no, okay, you're trying now, you're still baking in the heat there. What in the evening as well, we had what they called LobbyCon at the hotel, where you're in the lobby and you can have a couple of beers, a few drinks, and all of us author winners, we would kind of congregate and talk to each other. And the judges were so nice, because there's a certain barrier. Like I can't even talk to these people. I'm a nobody. I've written a couple of stories. I like it, but they're legends. They're award-winning, best-selling authors. But they would often come over to us and say, "Hey, how are you? What are you working on?" And yeah, you want to have a beer? I got some weird stuff from Germany, and so I'm sharing some drinks with these folks. And by the end of it, man, we were bonded. We were like a whole family experience. all the writer winners, I know them very well. A few of the artist winners I know. I didn't get to hang out with them too much. I hung out with my illustrator quite a bit. We've had just hour conversations, and I'm still processing it. My brain is still trying to wrap my head around it. I have about 80 pages of notes, but it was really quite extraordinary. I can go into more details later as I remember, but that's just the overview for now.
That's incredible. That's incredible. I'm sure you're just overwhelmed. I mean, gosh. So yeah, when you meet somebody like big, you're just like, how did you do it?
Well,
just teach me.
Well, I've got one story. At the very beginning of the whole affair, I'm there, and Tim Powers and Jody Lynn Nye are there, and I'm sitting in the front row, keener like I do. I'm a teacher, so I want to model that, right? Sit in the front row. And I asked a question, and Tim Powers comes right over, and I guess he wanted to hear more. He just he leans right in, wanting to look very intently at me, and I leaned right back, very intimidated by that. But a few days later, Tim Powers is taking a bunch of us to lunch at this little sandwich place across the street, and we're just talking about all kinds of stuff, different books, different movies, things that we like, and we're not exactly pals, but we're way chummy. The barriers went down. That was the biggest thing about this contest. Just they're so nice, and the judges are actively trying to take down the barriers. So yeah, we're famous, we're bestsellers, we're amazing, but you know what? We all started somewhere, and
Exactly.
They would say that back in the past, there were people who helped them, who came over and gave them a little boost, and now they're paying it forward to the rest of us. It's just really incredible.
Exactly. And that's what I was just thinking too. They had to start somewhere, and they know where you guys are. And then the fact that you were there at this event, they know you're up and coming, and your heart is in your writing.
I'm so humbled and just thrilled to be part of this. It's such a privilege. What about
Russell,
you guys? How was the week? Well, sorry.
Oh, Russell,
Yes.
didn't you need to tell us like where we or wait, Amy does that. Where can we find each other, or where are
What
we?
I'm
Russell.
supposed to do, but first
Yeah.
we're going, Valerie, you and I have to talk about our weekends, but we have spent some time, so maybe I should go ahead. I need to thank
Yeah.
our listeners for listening to us. We're top 1% of some podcast channels for our particular genre, and we thank our listeners. Most people listen to us while they're driving to work or working out. That's why 45 minutes is kind of our time. And for the first few months that we were on podcast, I never could find us. Then Amy did some changes, and even I could find us. Amy, where can people find us on our podcast?
You guys, I mean it. When I say Russell could not, I would get a text message
Sure.
30 minutes after the show. Amy, I can't find us, right? Because Russell goes and listens to it. I don't know. I can't re-listen to them. I don't like the sound of my voice. So it becomes this whole thing. But now he can find us. I don't get text messages like that anymore, you guys. So anywhere that you can listen to a podcast is where we're at. So Amazon Music, Spotify, Good Pods. If you are an Apple user, it's iTunes. If you're an Android like me, it's Google Play. But anywhere you type in Author Talk, look for Crimson, Red, and Gold. And you guys all know why, because it's my favorite. Go and check us out on any one of those platforms. You can also engage with us live during our shows in our Facebook group, YouTube channel, any one of our social media channels. We love engaging with you and getting you involved. And if you want to be on the show, you guys know I'm terrible with email. So send me a direct message and we will get you booked on the show. But Russell, Valerie, what did you guys do this weekend and the weekend before?
You want to go, Russell?
Yes.
Mine's not very exciting.
We drove to Houston to spend Easter with our family. After lunch on Easter Day, we got in the car and drove to Jackson, Mississippi. Most people don't like Jackson, Mississippi. It's a very blue collar town. I kind of grew up in a town a lot like Jackson, Mississippi, so I like it. And so we stayed there the night and then drove all into Atlanta this morning. That's all.
Yeah. I don't know. We've been cramming a lot of stuff in the past week. So we had went to the beach. We joined a crew there down at Bolivar, where so these are people who put on part of the parade for Mardi Gras. So they're pretty festive people. So it was nice meeting some new folks down there. Then I've been cramming in new restaurants, some plays, and then the family on Easter. Whoa, just full house, full house, full house. You know, the whole shebang. I even tried a new recipe, like being brave, but it all turned out great. Everybody ate everything. So what else can you wish for? Just all the family, everybody.
Before we get started, I got to ask Patrick a question before you get started, Val.
Anything.
Okay. What was the last science fiction book you read? And what was the base turning your life into the interest of science fiction? What was that book that you read?
Okay. Last one I read was Ringworld by Larry Niven, which I had just somehow missed. And I played Halo with my son, where they go on the ring and they,
Me too.
fight.
Me too. I
Such a
love
great game.
Halo.
And I played that really well. And he was the original Ringworld, and his Ringworld went around the entire star. And it was a very dangerous planet as well. He had these aliens that were they were alien and human. It's the only, like, the perfect apex of strange and yet accessible. And I read that shortly before I went down to LA. In terms of putting me onto sci-fi, well, when I was very young, I would watch my mother read all these speculative fiction stories. You've got fantasy, science fiction, a little bit of horror as well. She always had a book in her hand. And I forget how old I was. I might have been 7 or 8, maybe a little older. And I said, mommy at the time, I want to read a big person book. And she gave me this book called The Fellowship of the Ring, thinking maybe, he's not going to read that. He'll go off and do whatever. Well, I read that book, and it was far above my reading level at the time. I read it extremely slowly. It might have taken me an hour just to read a few lines, because not only would I have to painstakingly go through the text, but then I would sit there daydreaming. I might turn back to the map and I'd look, where are they going to go next? Oh, there's a forest coming up. I wonder what's going to happen in the forest. And they're in a tavern. What kind of things would I do in the tavern? And I realized recently that I wasn't really reading The Fellowship of the Rings so much as I was playing in Middle Earth like a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And kids, we don't see, I'm not a kid anymore. I feel like one. Kids don't know much about the world. There's so many gaps they have, and they fill in those gaps with magic. And sometimes the magic is wonderful, sometimes the magic is terrifying, but this magical overlay they put over their whole world. And as a speculative fiction author, I get to tap into that a little bit more. I get to go back to the edge of what is possible, dip my hand into the magic, and it's an incredible experience. So that turned me on to speculative fiction forever as a reader. Little while later, I was reading so many books, Wheel of Time and Terry Goodkind and just Terry Pratt, just anything I could possibly get my hands on. And so, weirdest thing for me, the turning point was this Merlin mini series with Sam Neill. And I look back on it and it's okay. The CGI wasn't very good, but for some reason, when I got to that, it wasn't exactly that on its own, but it must have been some critical mass, the snowflake that started the avalanche. At that point, I thought, I want to do this too. I want to actually start writing stuff. So my cultural meter went from receive to try to send out as well. And I roughed out this 5-part fantasy series when I was 18 years old, which I was an ambitious young man, let's just say that. And from that point on, I wanted to write as well.
That's a great answer. Thank you so much.
Yes. And I can totally connect to that, because it was in elementary school when I read Chronicles of Narnia. And then just like you said, you're in the trenches with your characters and just going through that story and just you're feeling all the emotions. Do you feel like that also spurred your love, for this genre?
Absolutely. You never lose that. They talk about nostalgia, And I think a lot of people, people who play video games find the same way, or people who watch old movies, like, why isn't it the same? Why isn't it the same? Well, you're not a child anymore. You know, the horizons have been expanded to the ends. You know what is real and what is not. But when you're a kid, there's magic. You know, Santa Claus might be over there. There might be the Tooth Fairy over here. And that sense of wonder, you know, we try to hold on to that as best we can. And yeah, you got Narnia. I remember reading that as well. I still had that kind of childhood sense. And you're not just reading the text on the page, you're reading the text that could be on the page that doesn't get in there as well. It's a very cool experience.
And I feel too, as authors, you want to create that world for your readers, you know, giving them the ambiance, the personality of your characters, that journey through the story where they're, you know, facing obstacle after obstacle, and the villain, the good guy, all this stuff. Do you feel like that is what has evolved in your own writing?
I think so. I think so. For me, it took me a while to transition from writing the first draft that was for me, and then realizing that that might not be the best draft for readers, because I have my conception of the whole story, but readers get a little tiny window into the story. And that's where we get into stuff like, you know, structure and plotting elements and all the technical details that for a long time I ignored, I resisted. I thought that's just going to hamper my story. And then I thought, well, no, that gives my reader an anchor into my story. And it's I mean, Brandon Sanderson and a few others talk about the iceberg theory, where you have a whole iceberg's worth of ideas. Hang on, I'm getting a pop-up. You have a whole iceberg's worth of ideas of your story, but readers can't have all that. You don't want to info dump like anything. You want to give them the feel of it. A couple of, you know, you don't have to describe an entire alley. You can just describe the neon lights reflecting on a slick of oil going through some cracked stones, and then let them fill in the rest. And that's what I tried to learn. I learned more to trust my reader, pull back a little bit in my drafts. And ironically, it works more because, you know, they fill in the rest with that kind of magic.
That's great. Yeah, that is great. I guess so. So you did your outline at 18. What happened after that?
Well, I wrote the first draft when I was in my 20s, and didn't turn out so well. I mean, it was okay, but it was an episodic kind of mess of a draft. I had fun.
It's a lot.
I really enjoyed doing it, but no one else really enjoyed it. It was not really going anywhere. I eventually got frustrated with writing. I was a teacher, and I really had to, you know, drill down into my teaching career to get focused into a school where I was settled rather than day-to-day supply work and contract work. So I gave up on writing for a while. I pushed it aside. But the weird thing is, and well, it sounds kind of weird, but I had all these characters in my head, and a few years went by, and I realized that I knew these imaginary people better than I knew a lot of real people. That's the only way I can describe it. They were like friends in a way. And I got a little bit older. COVID happened, and I think COVID caused a lot of us to reflect on our lives and where we were going. And you could call it a midlife crisis if you want. I've got a few gray hairs in there, but I realized I can't just wait till sometime in the future, the nebulous future, to go back to this story, because the future is not as big as we think, and it's getting smaller every day. And if I want these characters to live, and in my personal opinion, characters can only live in the imaginations of readers. There's this weird, almost alchemical lightning between the author and the reader, and somewhere between there, the characters exist. And if I wanted that to happen, I really needed to get serious about this writing thing. So I went back to it relatively recently, wrote a whole new draft based on all kinds of things I've learned from, you know, books and workshops and whatnot. There are so many technical things you can learn about writing. You can fly by the seat of your pants. You can be an intuitive author as well. And that worked for me for a while. But I got to this point where no, I needed help. I needed to know my strengths, my flaws, and how to fill them in. And well, basically, long story short, I've written that novel again, and it's still in the query trenches. It's a little bit too long for a first draft, or sorry, for an author's first book. It's about 135,000 words, but I'm sending it out there. It's getting rejected, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm confident that I've written the story that my characters deserve. And
That's
not only that, but sorry, you go ahead, and I can fill in more if you want.
oh no, it's fine. Russell, did you have a question?
I do. I want to know what was the story that won the prize.
Yes, that's what we're gonna
I'm dying for for you to tell
because
us
the
about that
prize
story.
is
Sure.
yeah, so that is the whole thing. We are here to talk about yes, we were talking about, you going to LA, but we didn't talk about why you were in LA. Can you share that, please?
Sure. So I'll set it up with the third quarter where I sent in, I had this book done and I wanted to send in maybe my prologue. I'll send in a prologue. I'm proud of it. I polished it. I sent it in. I thought, this is really well written. It's one of the best stories I've ever written. And I have placed in this contest previously as a semifinalist, and I thought it was better than that. So sure, I was just sent it off and just waited for the phone call, and it was rejected. Just just a form rejection. And I realized later, maybe a prologue isn't the best story to send into Writers of the Future, because they really like complete stories where there's a beginning, middle, and end. You pick up the story. This is great. You close it. That was a wonderful experience. You're not, waiting for more, things like that. That bummed me out for a couple of days. Wasn't a fan of that. But then I thought, no, I'm not going to leave the contest like that. I'm going to come back and I'm going to keep writing stories for this contest until I at least place, semifinalist, finalist, and then I'll be happy. So I went to the Writers of the Future online workshop. It's on their website, and it's got a lot of stuff for beginners, intermediates, and advanced people. And I just went through step by step. I did a whole new story from scratch. I had an idea. As a teacher, sometimes my kids would ask me, "Sir, do you believe in time travel?" And I would say, "Well, of course I believe in time travel. I'm waiting for the day when I'll travel back and teach myself how to invent it." And that is a little bit weird. It kind of reminds me of, I don't know if you know the Bill and Ted's movies, where they have the time travel fights at the end of it. Like, I'm going to go back and set up a key. Well, I'm going to go back and set up. And it's a little bit ridiculous, but I wrote this story, 30 minutes, or it's a paradox, from scratch, working through the Writers of the Future workshop. Basic premise: we've got 22-year-old Terry Johnson. He's not happy with his life. His dreams for his life are not aligning with the reality, which sometimes happens in our 20s. And he literally runs into the ultimate get-rich-quick scheme, which is himself from the future. And he's like, "Hey, I got, come on in. I've got this time travel device for you." And it kind of spirals from there. There's a little bit of a monkey's paw, genie out of the bottle, but it's a comedy. It gets more and more ridiculous. I liken it to a tornado in a phone booth kind of structure. And, it is, a lot of people comment. It's very funny. They enjoyed it. But ultimately, this Terry guy has to learn how to live with his life. What particular timeline does he want? What kind of person does he want to be in the future? Because there could be wealth, there could be prestige, there could be family. Which one is most important to him? And the comedy is there. A lot of people comment that it's very funny, but I think underneath it, it's a solid story about a guy trying to figure out what he's going to do with his life.
And where did you pull this story from?
Oh, this it's I had this idea of travel back in time to teach myself how to invent time travel, and I was thinking, where do I set this guy? And I'm a big fan of Neil Stephenson, so I remember at the beginning of Snow Crash, there's a hero protagonist as a deliverator. He's delivering a pizza, and I thought, pizza, all right, but I'm not going to make my character nearly as cool as hero protagonist. So he's driving this geriatric Toyota Tercel. The brakes are like jello. The Google lady is frantically trying. It's raining. He's trying to get his pizza on time, and he bumps into this guy, and he has, oh no, I hope he's not dead. I better go get him. And he just jumps up and basically takes over his car. Like, come on, get in. And then it just proceeds from there. And I had the idea of, it's not just one Terry from the future. As they change the timeline, there might be other versions potentially coming back, and they might have different ideas of what to do. And this little pizza shop that they end up, it might get a little bit crowded by the end of it. And that's it's a little bit goofy, but I like it. I had a lot of fun writing it.
Sounds like it, yeah.
So where can people find it, Patrick?
Well, I've got the book right here. It's a little bit backwards in the camera, but it's you can see the title there, Writers of the Future, Volume 41. It'll be on sale in Canada and the US April 22nd. And there's a lot of great stories in there. Like I said, I got to know all the writer winners. We're like a family now. And there's something in there for everybody. There's all kinds of weird creatures, point of view character. There's an AI car. And there's a whole story from the point of view of an AI car. And it takes place over 3 seconds because the AI processes things so quickly. And it's almost horrific in a way, but it's a nice car. It's a very chill guy. But it's so out of sync with regular humans. It was really unusual. There's other stories, really the importance of family. There's a lot of themes of be careful what you wish for, people discovering things that maybe shouldn't be discovered, getting powers that maybe should be, treated with more humility and respect. And I've really enjoyed all the stories I've read in there.
And was this the first award you won?
This is the first award I won. This is my first pro credit. I'm over the moon about it. When I got the call from Joni Labaqui at Writers of the Future, she said, Patrick, you're a finalist. I said, well, awesome. Our mission accomplished. I wanted to keep writing for the story until I got there. And I don't exactly get anxiety, but I have a strategic mind. So I have to think about everything. So I went through all these scenarios. Okay, if I'm third place, I'll react this way. If I'm second, I'll react this way. If I'm not any place, if she just says, thank you, try again later. Okay, that's fine. And then she said, you're first. And I hadn't prepped for that one. I just, wait, did you say first? You mean it's my story you're talking about, right? I had this, moment of disbelief, but they really liked it. A lot of the judges, they said they enjoyed it. Joni told me that a lot of people say that comedy is very difficult to write. A lot of times it can land flat, and it is a bit of an acquired taste, but apparently a lot of judges who normally aren't even into comedy enjoyed it as well. So I'm getting off track. Just to get me on track whenever you need to.
You're not off track. This is that was a great answer. When I was younger, building my practice, what I would buy books like this to read science fiction stories by writers I didn't really know yet. This is how I would escape the law practice of the day in building, your career and your family. You got to wind down before you go to sleep. And I used to buy these books all the time. So I'm very excited. I'm going to get this book. I'm going to read your story. I'm going to read all the stories because this is how I relax at night. I'm very excited about it.
Nice. And I just wrote my story with that in mind. I wasn't trying to prove anything anymore. My previous one, I wanted to write this big flowery language and, I'm this writer now and I can, no, I just wanted to write a fun story that anybody can pick up for 20, 30 minutes, sit in your favorite chair, have a glass of whatever you want. I'm not judgmental, and just enjoy a nice story. And when you get to the end of it, you think, yeah, they're running of the bulls. I get it. All right. And put it down and move on. And,
absolutely. So has this inspired you to what are you doing now? What's next?
Oh, it's when I talked about my characters living in my head. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Facebook story where it's years ago, a bunch of kids wanted to have a party at their house and they would put the invite out on Facebook. And instead of sending it to friends and family, they clicked the everyone button by mistake. And by the weekend, you had 500-600 people crashing in this house. And that's what my head feels like right now, because what they don't tell you is that you get a few stories done, but then I think, ooh, what about this? What about that? What about that? And there are all these potential stories I've got in mind. I've still got the old fantasy novel kicking around. I'm debating whether I cut that to a more manageable length or maybe just shelve it for now and do a few others, get my name out there, and maybe go back to that because that is my baby. I want that treated well. I actually, at the Writers of the Future workshop, we had a 24-hour story. So it started at 2 p.m. and I had a couple of prompts. I had a conversation I had with one of the drivers around LA, and they gave me this little box of, I thought it was iPods, and I opened it up and there were little candies inside, individually wrapped candies. And that was it. And they said, take that and write a 24-hour story. And what I managed to do was Tim Powers, he taught me something. He said, you should think with your fingers. Don't just think out loud. Don't just say anything. But if you're thinking about a story, type everything, stream of consciousness on your laptop or longhand if you need to. So I was there in author services for 2 hours, typing nonstop. I got about 6,500 words of notes. And then from there, I went back to the hotel room, and my wife can attest to this. I had about 3 or 4 coffees, about 8 or 9 cups of Earl Grey tea, just working through the night. And I got a 10,000 word cyberpunk story where these little candies are actually filled with illegal code. And they can get people high, or they can take over people's code as well. And there's a father and son, and the son is getting involved with the drug trade and these gangs. And, they get a knock in the middle of the night, and the son is under arrest. And the father thinks, oh no, they found us. They found us. I thought I had, escaped from them, because the father was this big criminal kingpin back in the day. So he has to go back into the gang life to save his son and take over from there. And it got into a 10,000 word story. It's still very rough, as all stories are after only 24 hours. But I have the inspiration now to turn that into a novel as well. And I have a few others. There's I've got another novel I'm working on. If you want to hear one, it's up to you.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So alt history. It's the year 1313. The last band of Knights Templar are going on a secret mission to the New World to uncover an artifact that may change history. But a freak storm blows them off course and straight into the middle of Ragnarok. And before they can go back to Europe and restore the order, they have to stop the apocalypse. And I've got that, I've roughed it out.
That's a heavy load. That's a heavy load. That's a lot of bearing for your characters.
I like that kind of alt history. What could happen? I mean, we have our standard history, but if you look sideways at particular events, and it's kind of I don't know, you can hear all kinds of stuff about the Knights Templar, like they did everything but walk on the moon, according to some people on the internet, which I don't really subscribe to, but it makes for such a cool story. So I can take some of that and just see, okay, what if all this stuff was actually true? What if they were doing all these fancy things in the New World? And I can explore that. And that's just one of them. There are so many others that are out there I'm working on. It's an incredible experience having so much to write with that you don't have time. I used to hear authors say that, and I thought, oh, that'd be terrible, and also that would be a wonderful problem to have. I can barely think of any ideas. And now I was in the hotel room, and we were going to a room to pick up our suitcases with our awards, and I happened by a dish that had been half eaten for room service. And I thought, oh, what if someone just takes that food? And then I thought, well, wait a minute, what if the person inside was a magician? And that food was actually some magical stuff that only they can have. And if you eat that, you can get all freaked out. And like, I'm seeing stories everywhere now. It's a little, my wife tells me sometimes, easy, it's all right. But it's a wonderful experience, let me tell you.
Yes. I can totally relate to that, because I talk about this all the time if I'm walking or just doing random things like you're saying. And then just like the thing is like, oh, that's a good lesson for my students, or that's a great poem, or that's this, or that's this. It's really, really hard to turn it off if you're in that, that creative mind, and you just gotta like, okay, let me file it away for, later when I finish the other thing and finish the other thing. And just like you said, all these things are living in our heads, just waiting to come out.
What I'm learning as well is I don't think it's enough to wait sometimes, because my short memory, I know they say about 5 minutes. I got a lot less than 5 minutes, especially after all that, BarCon and jet lag in LA. So I need to get some kind of app for my phone, maybe a few of them, and I can just pull it out and just, Captain's log. I got this cool idea for a story and talk into it. And I might look weird to people passing by. I'm a writer. They'll look at me and say, you're still weird. Like, thank you. All right. But at least I get my ideas down and do it that way. And then when I get back to the laptop, I just type away. I'm actually
you could use Copilot to do that.
Okay. I'll definitely write that down. Okay.
I'm
up for anything.
Experimenting with AI because I've decided that this is something I need to learn. Amy actually has a bunch of AI apps where I always thought that AI was just one thing, but there's many differently educated AIs. So you could probably find a AI assistant to do that for you.
That'd be really neat. Yeah. And then I
Or you
can
can
get
be old school like me and write it on a napkin, and then I shove it in my wallet, and then I find it later, and I'm like, oh, that's what I forgot.
and if it gets all
Yeah.
smeared, then you have a whole new story where different words are
Yeah.
blending
Yes, that
together.
is so
And
true.
Man,
there
I'm
you go.
gonna live vicariously through all of you guys. One, when I'm walking, I don't have the creative like thoughts that you guys have. I'm just trying to keep my kids alive and know what I need to do the next day, And then as far as being organized, I have a lot of the AI bots. Yes, I have those and I use them, but I'm doing good to know my name by the end of the day and to have my head attached to my body. So I'm going to live vicariously through all of you organized people right here because I am an organized, disorganized person. I thrive in chaos for that. So I'm going to live through you guys. I'm just saying.
I get it. I think I'm a disorganized
Yes.
artist as well, but I've learned to establish islands of order, as I call it. My
Support.
files for my school, for my classes are really well structured. My desk, not so
Mhm.
much. Sometimes I discover my desk. I'm like, hey, there it is. All right. I'm
Hey,
not
but
gonna
wasn't
see
it?
it too long.
But didn't Einstein have a cluttered desk though? Right? And
True.
he was like one of the smartest men. Russell would know this.
He
Yes.
did, but that's
Okay.
kind of a myth. He did his work not at his desk, but sitting, drifting, and looking out a window.
Yeah.
He did his best work just looking out a window.
Yeah.
That's
Man.
cool.
I'm going to live through you guys. You guys are just way
So,
more organized.
where can people find more about your stories or more about you?
I have a website, so patrickmacphee.com, and it's still a little bit under construction, but I have a couple of old stories on there. One of the stories is a man, disgruntled ex-employee. He goes to his place of business and five people drop dead. And he's on trial for murder. And they caught him. They caught him in 4K. There's all kinds of videos there. And he very confidently pleads not guilty in the courtroom. And the thing is, his weapon was his mind. So he just went in, stared at people, and they just fell over. And it's on camera, but he said, it wasn't me. You can't prove that I did it. Psychic phenomena don't exist. So there's this big kind of a philosophical debate back and forth about the nature of, if some guy actually did that, how could you prove that he did it? So there's a back and forth there. I have another story. My first, not a pro credit, but paid credit, where a time travel story as well. A couple of guys are having a little bet over a beer. And the one guy says, okay, time travel's impossible, because if it was possible, we would have seen at least one time traveler by now, right? In the trillions of years and countless trillions of people, some time traveler must have come back. So therefore, I'm going to take your $100. And right as he's reaching for the $100, a time traveler shows up. And he's like, I can't believe it. And it kind of goes like that. But patrickmacphee.com. I'm also on X, MacPhee225. I like to engage with people that way as well. I'm getting onto Facebook and a few of the others. But I'm still growing. It's such an incredible experience just to be part of this now. I'm like the newborn deer trying to walk, looking at all these titans who've been doing this for so long. But it's such an amazing privilege to be here.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I love that. Russell, you're muted.
yes.
I know I am. That's because I have a barking dog.
Oh, that's on the same level as having children that bust in. I mean, that doesn't bother us at all. But
No.
man, how do you follow that up? Like, that was just such an elegant answer to that.
Mhm.
Like, when this happens, I have to follow it up because I'm the one that has to close out the show. But then you literally I want to just end it there because that's such a beautiful way of ending things. But we have to play our music, you guys. But Patrick, congratulations just on
Thank
all.
you.
Welcome to the writing and publishing community. That's a lot of fun. You already, converted Russell. Russell is your target market. and he's going to do. This is weird. I read psychological thrillers to relax. So
Hey, it's all
Let's
good.
go.
that's my realm. I read that right before bed, and I don't know why, but it just is. It works for me. But I want to thank you, Patrick, for taking time out of your day to come and hang out with us, talk to us, tell us about your award and your book and what's next for you. So thank you so much for joining us this
Thank you
morning.
for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Well, you guys, we hope you all have a fantastic Monday, a great rest of your week. And until next Monday, bye for now, everybody.
Bye.